This is the story of the Bible. It started with creation. God created everything that exists through His Word. He created human beings who were the crown of His creation, who were supposed to govern over this world as God's representatives. But we failed and we chose our own will instead of God's will, our own judgment of what is right and wrong instead of God. Then we were cast off of the Garden of Eden. After a while, that sin has infected humanity. There was a story of Noah. God wanted to destroy everything, but Noah found grace upon God's eye, and God decided to save his family from the flood. Then there is the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God promised to Abraham to give him land, a great descendant, that he would be actually a blessing to all people. Jacob had a son, Joseph, who after many tribulations became the second in government of Egypt, and Jacob's family came to live in Egypt. After a while, a new Pharaoh was in charge, and he decided to enslave the Israelites. They needed someone to take them out, and God sent Moses to free them from the hands of the Egyptians. God freed them through Moses. They went to the desert, where God gave some instructions to Moses on the top of the Sinai. They went ahead, they got into the promised land over the command of Joshua. There, they dominated many other nations and conquered with the Lord of hosts the land. They had many judges over a certain period of time, but they needed a king. And God appointed Saul to be the king. He failed to be faithful to God as a king. And then God appointed a new king, a shepherd, David. David was a man according to God's heart. Then Solomon, son of David, became the king, and he was also unfaithful to God. And God decided to send Israel again into an exile. The Assyrians and Babylons dominated over them. After many tribulations in this period, where many of the prophets wrote their book, they were freed from the exile because of a Persian king, Cyrus. Then there was the period between the Old and the New Testament. The people of God were dominated by many other nations, like the Greek, the Romans. But God wanted not to simply save them from the hands of those people. God wanted to save them from their own rebellion, and He sent Jesus. Jesus is the Messiah, the Savior, the Anointed One. He came down to earth to announce that His kingdom was coming. Through His death, He killed the power of death. He killed the power of sin, and He brought His kingdom, the starting of the new age. In His death and in His resurrection. And Jesus preached the gospel. Jesus had 12 disciples representing the 12 tribes of Israel. And Jesus suffered many persecutions by Jews. Those persecutions led Jesus to the cross, where Jesus, through His blood, through His sacrifice, as He reminded us on the Last Supper, He died to save us, as a lamb needed to die in the last plague on Egypt. He was the lamb that was slain for the sake of many, and He brought His kingdom down. Through many parables, Jesus explained what His kingdom was. His govern over our hearts and over everything that exists was. Jesus came to redeem His people, and He accomplished it through His death and resurrection. And He's gonna finish this job when He comes back again. While we're not there, we, the church, need to do our jobs as His representatives, His body. We need to enjoy God, to show the world and be witnesses of Christ, of what He's done. And the power of Jesus was the Spirit. And Jesus sent the Spirit to us also in the day of the Pentecost, which started a new whole chapter in the Bible story, where the church started to act. The church's job is to be God's representatives here on earth, to share the gospel, to show the others the redemption that Christ brought to earth, to be a blessing to all people, as Abraham was. And Christ is coming back again soon. Even though in the times of Christ, they were expecting Christ coming with power. The Jews was expecting the Messiah coming with power. He didn't. He came as a lamb to die, and He's coming again with power. And there is going to be a new heaven and a new earth where all creation is restored, where all the cosmos is restored, and this entire story of redemption. This is the story of the Bible. This is our story. And we are in the middle of the beginning of the church and the end of times. We are waiting for the second come of Christ. And this is our place in this story of the Bible.